Economic hard times are good because good salespeople sell in the good times and the bad times. Yeah? Crap salespeople struggle. You ask anyone in sales, how did you get into sales? 99% of the time they'll look at you and say, I kind of fell into it. And the main reason why salespeople fail is they're emotionally attached to the outcome. That's what I
100%.
realized. They are so attached to getting the deal, getting the meeting. They focus on the outcome and they don't focus on what they're doing to get there.
And if you're an A player, if you're willing to come in and put in the work and learn the industry, you will dominate in this industry because you're constantly competing against the at-leasters that you're talking about.
Getting past the gatekeeper is not letting the gatekeeper decide whether or not you get through. You've got to let the decision maker make that decision. So one of the skills that your people listening to this need to learn and master is always answer a question with a question. But doing that well, doing that right is a skill. Because you do it wrong, you look like a complete twat. You look arrogant. You ask the wrong question. It's really a skill worth mastering, and anyone in insurance should master it.
You have to have the balls to walk away. You can't act like it and then end up coming back and saying, oh, I was just kidding. I'll do the deal on your terms. You either believe in what you're selling, in the process that's involved with it, or you don't. But if you believe it, you have to go all in with it or else it doesn't work.
I say to my clients, if you're in sales to get your emotional needs met, get the fuck out. Buy a dog. Set up a charity. Do something noble. I'm in this for one reason and one reason alone, to go to the bank. That is the whole purpose of it. If you're in it for any other reason, get out.
I've been in the insurance industry. I've got a great agency, a great book of business, a great coaching community. But even today, if I want something, I'll tell my wife, I'll just go sell another deal, and we'll, that'll give us the money for it. We don't need to take it out of savings. Welcome to the Power Producers Podcast, where we are refining and redefining the sales game. I've been super pumped about this one for a while, and I am very excited to introduce you to Mr. Benjamin Dennehy, who is the UK's most hated sales trainer. But I got to tell you, man, I just found out he has an even better attribute to him that I think that we will love just as much. We were going back and forth, and I always ask people before I hit the record button, how do I introduce you? And he said, you're one of the few people who's ever pronounced my last name correctly. And I'm like, well, come on, man. Brian Dennehy was Big Tom Callahan. That was Tommy Boy's dad. That's like one of the greatest sales movies, at least for this audience anyhow. And I just found out that they're actually related. And you said you just found out too.
Oh, I found out when I went to, my English family were telling me, because my father always used to mention it, but I always thought he was talking shite until my other family confirmed it. So he was my grandfather's brother's son. And I had to figure out what that was. And I believe that's a first cousin removed. So it's just an interest. Yeah. So it was just So my friends love it because we're that close to Rambo. That's
there you
cool.
go. Yeah. Well, I mean, that's a guy that had a pretty eclectic acting career too. Like he was in Western movies, he was in military movies, he was in Tommy Boy. It's just kind of crazy. But anyhow, listen, so Benjamin's here. Obviously, how'd you get the title? We got to start with that. UK's most hated sales trainer. Is it self-proclaimed? Is it because of that directness that we talked about right before we started this thing?
Well, first of all, it is self-proclaimed. I get people actually come up to me at events and ask me, like, in all seriousness, it's like, how did you become the UK's most hated sales? And it's not like there's some sort of international body that monitors hate against salespeople. It's not a title I was given by the Queen or anything. I said, no. I said I made it up. But the reason I made it up, there's always a method to my madness. When I was starting out in my sales training career, I went and looked at what other sales trainers, how they describe themselves. And they all fell into the trap that I teach salespeople not to fall into. And that's the trap of trying to be liked. Look at me, love me, like me. This is about me. I'm blah, blah, blah. And so when you read their bios, it's always top performer, number one, best coach, guru, expert, leader. And I thought, my God, they all want to be loved too. This is terrible. And I thought, well, I'm going to take the one thing that no one wants to be hated. So therefore, I'm going to plant my flag, just like the British do everywhere. Just plant your flag and claim that spot. And I thought it'll work. And it did work. The oddest thing when I first started was standing up in front of a room full of people and introducing myself, because it is such a weird thing to say, hi, my name's Benjamin. I am the UK's most hated sales trainer, you know. But after it stuck, then Trump came along with his hat, and I thought, oh, Nick and Nat, the most hated man on the planet. I thought, gotta take that, right?
Just
And
double down on it.
double
Yeah.
down, yeah, yeah. I'm just like him, double down. I thought this will be great, and it's done brilliantly. Because it stands out, people remember it. It makes no sense, but also there's when you work with me, you realize why. Because I'm brutally blunt. I hold up the ugly mirror. I point out that most salespeople are losers and failures because let's be honest, deep down, people in sales don't want to be there, most of them. You ask anyone in sales, how did you get into sales? 99% of the time, they'll look at you and say, I kind of fell into it.
Right. Well, insurance industry specifically, like if you asked
Yeah,
100 people in the insurance industry, hey, how did you get into insurance? Every one of them is going to be, well, I was doing something else and it didn't work out, and I had an uncle who had an agency, or something
exactly.
like that. And our industry is notorious for really not having good sales support anyhow. So at the agency level specifically, you have to go seek out people like yourself, or in my case, people like me for commercial specific stuff, because you're just not, the agencies don't invest in it. It's been archaic, man. Nothing has changed in probably 100 years. It's all, if you make 100 calls, this many people answer, this many people will meet with you, this many people that you quote, and this many people will end up ultimately buying. So go make this many calls every single day. And here's a phone book with all the numbers you need. And I'm not going to
Yeah.
help you figure out how to talk to these people, how to do anything. Just go get clients. That's it. And
I
that's the
mean, yeah,
extent of it.
I agree. Insurance, again, it's pretty much across the board. No, this is it. You see, you're right. You go to a party, ask someone, what do you do? If you meet someone and they said they're a lawyer or they're a doctor, and you say, how'd you become a doctor? That's like, oh, I've always wanted to be it. I've always had a passion for blah, blah. And then they went and spent 7 years studying it. Then they start off as a junior. Same with a lawyer. They'll spend 4 years at law school. Then they have to start off as a junior. But to be classed as a sales professional, all you need is 3 days product knowledge, a new suit, and a CRM system, and you are one. You are now a sales professional. This is why it's full of carpetbaggers, people that don't want to be there. And so, if you don't want to be somewhere, are you going to invest the time and money to get really, really good at it? And the answer is no. Your job in sales, for most people, I call them at leasters. They operate at a 7 out of 10. At least I just missed target. At least I just hit target. At least I can pay my bills this month. And as long as you can get to the at least level, you're fine in sales. Coast through, sort of thing. And no ambition, no real drive. They always moan they're poor. Salespeople are the only people in the world, with the exception of bankers, who can create their own paycheck.
Yeah,
And
exactly.
they're
I'll tell
always
you what,
moaning
man,
they're poor.
everything you just said is 100% accurate too, because I I'm not going to say that I fell into the insurance industry. I actually like it. I enjoy being here. I sought it out to some degree because I was running grocery stores and super targets for the first decade of my adult life, working 100 hours a week. And then I started having kids and thought, what could I go do where I actually make more money for the more hours that I'm willing to work, instead of being on this salary and bonus plan, and every hour I work is less money per hour, for what I'm doing. And so I met with the guy that ultimately talked me into coming into the insurance industry, or I shouldn't say talked me into it. That sounds kind of forceful, but that basically opened my eyes to it. And what he told me was that it's a C industry. It's full of average people. It's full of people who do just enough to get by. And if you do just
Yep.
enough to get by in this industry, you can still make really good money without killing yourself. And he said, if you're an A player, if you're willing to come in and put in the work and learn the industry, you will dominate in this industry because you're constantly competing against the at leasters that you're talking about.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I'm the same. I fell into this. I trained as a lawyer. I qualified. I was going to be a criminal defense attorney, as you'd say in the US. That was my plan. But I decided to do some travel. So what do you do if you're educated? You can string a sentence together and you don't dribble during interviews. You're
Right.
qualified to be a salesman because that is the only job hiring. I mean, I say this because it's a skill, but in some ways it's kind of a worthless skill. Have you ever seen a job that says wanted ex-salesman?
Yeah, right. No.
You're right. So a lot of people who fall into it get stuck because after 2 years they realize I got nowhere else to go unless I retrain as a teacher or a doctor or a pharmacist or whatever. It's really bizarre. So if you're in it, my advice is you might as well get bloody good at it because you're going to be here probably for the rest of your life.
Yeah, and it's funny because I also was accepted into law school, and that's the career path I thought I was going to take. And
Yeah.
then I started running the numbers, man, and I looked at how long am I going to have to be in school, which I did not want to have to be in school any longer. I already took the Tommy Boy plan and getting through college. I should have been a lawyer already for as long as it took me to get my undergrad, but I was running a store full time and going to school at night. Then I looked at how long do I have to be a junior, an associate before I can get to the partner status. And I'm looking at how much money I'm going to make versus how much I'm going to spend. And I'm like, no. If I were to just go do this and become really good at this, I would never, even as an attorney, I'll never be able to catch my earnings and earnings ability and my net worth that I could start building today. So I said, screw it. I'm not going to law school. I'm going to do this instead.
Yeah, and I make as much money or more than had I been a lawyer for this long. And the beautiful thing about this is,
Guaranteed.
if the beautiful thing with this is, if I fuck up, no one goes to prison either. That's the other beautiful side. There's no responsibility in this game. People don't realize there's very little responsibility. You either don't win or you do win. Yeah, so it is. I try to get across to people how wonderful sales is, but yeah, some people just can't see.
I've been
See,
selling since I was a kid, though, man. Like I've written a couple of books, and I talk about it in the intro to my first book. But from the time I could basically
yeah,
walk door to door, I was selling something in the neighborhood, whether it be the fun. I was the kid that enjoyed the fundraisers that the school had. And because
yes,
I liked the fact that I could get somebody to buy a magazine subscription for me that they didn't have before I got there. And I mean, there was always that component of sales that I liked. And even in retail, you could see if you were responsible for a department or a location that you're growing that top line revenue, but it's not the same as the one-on-one that we have going out now and meeting with the CFO or the owner of a company and opening and closing those opportunities. I just think it's a really rewarding career, both from an ability to win if you're good standpoint, but financially, you're in control of your own paycheck, man. I mean,
wow,
I'm one of these people who will always want a commission only job. I don't want you to tell me what my salary is going to be because that tells me that I'm going to be limited in what I can earn. And right now I'm not. I can go if I want
totally
to
agree.
work hard enough to make $5 million this year, the industry will allow me to do that. You know what I mean?
Totally agree. This is the only job where you say, I want to take a holiday this year, but I need $5,000. No other job can you go, okay, well, I'll go and try and earn it this month then. How many other jobs let you the opportunity to just go out and generate another 5K on top of what you're normally getting? It's
It's so funny,
unheard
man,
of.
because I'm so guilty. Even today, man, as long as I've been doing this, is successful is what I've been in the insurance industry. I've got a great agency, a great book of business, a great coaching community. But even today, if I want something, I'll tell my wife, I'll just go sell another deal and
Yeah,
that'll give us the money for it. We don't need to
that'll
take it
cover
out of
that. It's
savings.
beautiful.
Yeah, we don't need to take it out of savings or anything else. I'll go sell another deal next week. It's not a big deal. And I've always thought that way. That's probably not the best way to think, but we're given that as an opportunity. Like what
And
I
that
could
makes you a hunter. That makes you the chief of the
100%.
village. When someone says we need more food, fine, I go out and kill something.
Well, and I like nice stuff, man. So I mean, the things that I'm having to go sell to get start costing more, so I sell more and ultimately end up doing
Well,
better as
this
a
is it.
result.
That is the downside to being good at making money. The more you make, the more you spend, and you got to keep that treadmill turning.
Oh man, I'll tell you. So take me
Yeah,
back for a minute. Before you
yeah,
got into um being the trainer that you are now, like
yeah.
what was your favorite sales job that you had? What industry were you in that you really enjoyed selling the most?
So I have an interesting trajectory because I started off I before I was a sales trainer, I had my own business doing business development. So I would be the appointment setter, prospecting. The one thing that people hate doing and do pretty poorly is prospecting. And the one thing I was always good at was being able to get people to get allow me to come and see them. So I had a business that would work specifically for advertising agencies in London. And I would set appointments with brand directors, marketing directors. I mean, I can't think of a brand in the UK that I haven't set an appointment with at some point. Coca-Cola, Pepsi, Unilever, Kraft, all the various products, Nestle, all of these companies I've set appointments for my clients who've gone on then to win business. And what happened is one day the CEO of one of these advertising agencies said to me, Benjamin, we've worked with a lot of businesses before that outsource, business development. And he goes, they've never been as good as you. He goes, why are you so good at this? Why, why do people just want to meet with you. And I said, honestly? He said, I said, yeah. I said, honestly? He said, yes, yeah. I said, honestly? I said, I don't know. He goes, I said, I said, that is the honest. I said, I have no idea. I know certain things work, but I don't really know why. And he said to me, looked at me, he said, you need to figure out the why. He goes, because you are going to make money not doing what you're doing. He goes, well, I know you're doing well, but you'll make more money showing other people how to do this. That's where you should position yourself. So that was my epiphany moment, actually. That's when I thought, he's onto something. So then I started researching and looking into the psychology and why what I did worked. And I realized I did a lot of stuff naturally that I didn't know was good for selling.
Isn't
Like
that
I would
crazy though?
naturally,
I find myself all the time the same thing. I'd love to take credit for doing it intentionally, but it's just kind of been an accident that I did the right thing
yeah,
at the right time or said the right thing at the right time or positioned myself.
exactly.
It's
That's how
kind
a
of
lot of
weird. You can't really
salespeople,
explain
yeah.
it.
That's how a lot of salespeople are. And so I started to think to myself, the more I looked into this, because I trained as a lawyer, I started to look at actually, this is a lot like law. Everybody's playing a game. The truth is not being told, but it's there to be found. So I realized very quickly that every prospect, I don't like to say lie because I think lies are wrong word. Prospects are economical with the truth. They deceive. And what I realized is everyone wasn't telling the truth. Salespeople weren't telling the truth. The prospect wasn't telling the truth. And a bit like law, I thought, this is a bit like law. My job is to try and get to the truth. And my job isn't to convince these people that I'm right. I need them to discover that I'm right. It was very different. Convincing and discovering are two different things. And so I realized I need to approach this like a lawyer. This is a game. So I created my uniform. Just under the British system, you wear your wig and your gown. It's all very formal. The reason they put that on, though, is it separates the human from the advocate. So the human underneath, it's like, I hate my client. He's awful. He's a despicable human being. God, I hope he goes to prison. But when you put the uniform on, it's my lord. This is one of the most noble and learned people I've ever had the honor of meeting. And then
Yeah.
you argue the case without passion or prejudice, and you go in and fight the battle. And to me, sales is exactly the same. And the main reason why salespeople fail is they're emotionally attached to the outcome. That's what I
100%.
realized. They are so attached to getting the deal, getting the meeting. They focus on the outcome and they don't focus on what they're doing to get there. And as you said, a lot of salespeople, when you ask them, why are you good? Will say, I don't really know. Or they give the usual play, well, you got to work hard, you got to do the knowing. No, that's not the reason. If you ask a golfer or a surgeon, why do your patients not die? And he goes, I don't know. You do enough of these. You just play the numbers, and you would never hire them. But an actual surgeon would say, why don't they die? Yeah, well, because I know what I'm fucking doing. I know every single cut. I know every single cut. I know every single incision. I know when I have to do there's nothing in the human body that can surprise me when I cut it open, so I can never stress out or freak out. I know exactly what to do if I nick an artery. I know what to do. If that's why patients don't die, because I do it. It's almost boring. My job is so boring because I do the same thing every day, but really, really well. That's what salespeople don't do. They, as you say, they feel lucky. Or they say, it's just good timing, or we had the right product, or they really needed what we had, or it's my winning personality.
Yeah.
It's none of those things. So if
Yeah.
you can figure out, yeah,
The parallels between the legal profession and sales, there are quite a few. And I mean, even in my own experience, I find myself when I go in and for a meeting, I've already set the appointment, but I'm going in to actually talk about what we do, learn about what that company does more than anything else. Because to your point, I was always brought up where you answer the questions that are asked, but nothing more than that, right? So anytime that I go into a meeting, I almost plan it like it's going to be a deposition. I have my list of questions. I've got a tree that says if they answer this way, here's my follow up. Here's my follow up. So I would tell you, playfully saying it, yeah, I do feel like you get lucky, but you don't really get lucky when you've been doing it over and over and over again. Luck's in the preparation for me, and I don't ever go in unprepared. But I
yeah,
also, have gotten good to the point to where I can get people. I'm not a hard salesman. I don't have to close my product. I know that at the end of the meeting, when somebody says, "Okay, what are the next steps?" The deal's done. I don't even have a hard close because of the
I
way that
agree.
I ask the questions. They come to the realization at some point, probably usually about 3 questions in, holy crap, I've never had another agent come in and ask me a question about this before. What does this have to do with insurance, and why does this guy think it's important? And they'll usually ask me, and my answer is, well, because you're dealing with insurance salespeople. That's why they get paid for selling you a policy. So their only goal is to come in here and sell you a policy. But I understand after doing this for 20 years that if I want to control your cost, I have to figure out what the root cause of that pricing issue is. And it's never the
Absolutely.
fact that they didn't have enough insurance carriers. It's never the fact that they didn't get you enough quotes. It's the fact that you don't have these 3 things in your business operationally that scare the underwriters. And if I can help you put these 3 things in and represent that they're done, I'm going to automatically be able to get you a premium savings on the back end. And I can confidently say that because I've done it over and over again.
Yeah. I mean, like I said, I work with insurance companies, and one of the things I say, this is why I love the law and sales, putting them together. A lawyer never asks a question they don't know the answer to. Yeah, so it looks like they're seeking the truth, but the reality is that I know where I'm going. I know if I ask this question, the prospect's going to say this, this, or this. And if he says this, I'm ready for it. So I'm the same. So one of the things I teach my clients is the art of Socratic questioning, is where you never answer a question. Now, people find that incredibly difficult to get good at because we've been programmed since birth that if you're asked a question, you've got to give an answer. You never had a choice growing up. If you were asked a question by a parent or anyone older, you had to answer, didn't you? So
100%.
that becomes a learned behavior. So when you get in a sales meeting and they ask you a question like, have you ever worked with a company like ours? The default position is to start discussing the companies similar to them that they've done. Oh, yeah, well, we work with a lot of companies in your sector. We've worked with ABC. We've done this. So I teach people how to do the opposite. And I work with an insurance group in the United Kingdom. And the CEO of this company, he looked at me and we're in the meeting and he says to me, he goes, Benjamin, I got a question for you. I said, sure. He goes, have you ever worked with an insurance company before? Now, at the time, I never had. This is my first time ever. I got in front of them. I never worked with an insurance company. So I know I can't answer that question without it hurting me. So all I do is I apply what I teach, and I just looked at him, scratched my head. You got to do a lot of acting in sales. You always got to look like you're perplexed. Scratch my head, and I said, that's a really good question. What do you mean? Now, people say, how can you ask someone, what do you mean, when the question is so obvious? Because I know he's been programmed to answer a question too. So when I ask him it, he feels forced to clarify what he means, which he did. He goes, well, what I mean is, now he's going to ask the real question. You see, the first question is never the real question. And
Right.
he goes, well, what I mean is, Benjamin, my concern is insurance is a very regulated and niche market. Everyone's regulated niche when you get in sales, you'll discover. Right. Anyway, so we're a very regulated niche market. My concern is that if you don't have experience, I'm not sure you're going to be able to help us. So again, you fall back on another question. I go, okay, makes sense. I go, so are you telling me then that if you genuinely believed what I taught would work, you can't work with me if I don't have insurance experience? So now we've flipped it. The pressure's on him. He goes, well, no, I'm not necessarily saying that. I said, well, what does that mean? He goes, well, obviously, if I believed what you did would work, then no, that wouldn't be a barrier to working together. Now I can answer his question knowing it won't hurt me. And I said, well, in that case, I'll be upfront. I've never worked with an insurance company before. I get the feeling you're going to tell me to leave now, aren't you? He goes, no, like I said, if I believe it'll work. I walked out with the order. Ended up working with this insurance company for over 18 months. In fact, I was still coaching the CEO's son just last week because
Mm.
we've continued the relationship. So one of the skills that your people listening to this need to learn and master is always answer a question with a question. But doing that well, doing that right is a skill, because you do it wrong, you look like a complete twat. You look arrogant. You ask the wrong question. It's really a skill worth mastering, and anyone in insurance should master it.
Yeah, I mean, one of the ways that I have always done it, well, I shouldn't say always, but since I read his book, Chris Voss and Never Split the Difference talks about mirroring people.
Yes.
And just simply like, and so in your situation, instead of the way you did it, the way which by the way was brilliant, but how I would have probably engaged with him when he said, "Have you ever worked with an insurance company before?" I would have said, "Worked with an insurance company before," and then he would have gone in and said, "Well, yeah, I
Yeah, so
mean,
it's the
have you
same
ever?"
thing. Yeah.
Same general thing, but
Yeah.
it's easy if you're a newer salesperson and you don't want to have to try and figure out what the question's always going to be and have an elaborate way to go about it, just mirror people. Like, just ask them based on the last 2 or 3 words in an inquisitive way, and they're going to continue to give you more information. That's honestly one of the best tools
It
that I've
is.
picked up from anything when you're in a prospect meeting, because the hardest thing to do, and you probably know this, it's not really the hardest thing if you're good at engaging with people, but people don't really want to talk, and that keeps them talking. The more questions you ask, the more they talk, and you're not dominating the conversation when you're just giving them a quick question after whatever they ask you. You're redirecting it back to them, and they're giving you more information. And the whole time, if you're listening to understand what they're saying, as opposed to giving them a canned response as to what's next, they're giving you the roadmap to how to get around whatever it is that's the objection or
Exactly.
what's in front of you.
My job as a salesman isn't to give away information, it's to extract information. Salespeople don't realize that. They think they're there to put on a dog and pony show and convince the prospect. No, look, I've got a warehouse full of stuff here. I know it works. We've built a company that makes millions of dollars a year selling what we sell. I'm not here to convince you why you should buy from us. I'm here for you to convince me why should we let you be our customer. That's the mindset of a salesman. I don't need your money. I make $300,000 a year plus overtime or whatever it is. I financially, if you say no to me today,
I'm going to be just
happy
fine
with that. Move on. I've got another.
You just moved me closer to my next deal. Thank you for not wasting any more of my time.
And so if you go in with that mindset and that behavior, you flip the script. So I spend my whole time saying, well, look, you're going to have to convince me why I should work with you. It's not the other way around. I'm not here to convince you. So mastering that, and that is, you're right, it all's down to your questions. If you ask better questions, credibility comes from the questions you ask, not the answers you give. Yeah, but salespeople, this is one of the biggest challenges they have, is they love to write up a list of a lot of intellectual questions, and they lack what I call the pub conversation.
100%, man. Talking over your prospect's head, technical terms, all of that crap.
Yeah. They
People
don't
want
know how to
relate to, man, period.
I always use the example, say you sold legal services. This is what you do for your day job. So you're at the pub with your best mate, and your best mate turns to you and says, I'm thinking about getting a divorce. Now, if you were a dumb salesman, I know a good lawyer that you could probably talk to, because, that's what I do. I sell legal services. That's what an amateur salesperson does. Whereas a friend would listen and say, the first thing you'd say, what? What do you mean you're going to get a divorce? What do you mean? And then your friend would start to explain. And then you'd spend your whole time trying to convince your mate not to get divorced. Well, have you tried counseling? Have you done this? Have you done that? It's going to cost you. You would go through a conversation like a human, trying to convince him that this is wrong. And if he was still adamant he was going to get a divorce, then maybe say, okay, well, look, if you need any help or any support, I'm here. If there's anything I can do for you, well, yeah, don't you hook people up with lawyers? So that could be, but it's getting that conversational questioning skill down. And that is so hard for so many, because they're like little robot drones. I've got to tell them this. I've got to tell them this. I've got to understand. Stop talking about you and your product. Ask 100%, questions.
Man. And the other thing is, quit caring what that other person thinks about you. You know what I mean? So for me, I'm probably one of the most genuine, open, and authentic people you will ever meet. I have zero secrets. Sometimes it works for me. Sometimes it doesn't. But nobody's ever going to accuse me of putting on a false front or being a fake person when I'm sitting across from them talking to them. I talk about my family. I talk about the things that motivate me, and I'm open and I'm honest with it. And as a result, when people see me in person, if they've heard me on the podcast or whatever else, they're like, holy crap, you're the same guy in person that you are on the podcast. Right. I'm a big dumb animal. I'm not smart enough to be two different people. I am who I am. I'm either your flavor or I'm not your flavor. If I'm not your flavor, that's okay. You just self-selected not going into my pipeline. I don't need to do any work to get you out of there. So thank you. That's fine. I'm okay with the fact that you don't like me and we don't relate. The other thing but to go back to what you said about, I'm trying to decide whether or not, you should be our customer. That is the easiest advice to give on this side of the mountain, and it's the hardest one to take when you're a new salesperson. Too many new salespeople are prostitutes for their product, and they don't stand behind that exact sentiment. And I can tell you right now, producers, if you're listening to this, I'm not saying this to brag, but I'm going to share a number, which I very rarely do. When I was on spring break, I had an account referred to me that I closed that was $1.3 million in premium. Do you know why I closed it? Because 3 years ago, I refused to work with the company. I told them they weren't ready for me and that I wasn't going to waste my time going in there. And when the person who referred it to me this time called, the owner of the company was in the background and said, David, I promise I'm going to behave. I'll do what you need me to do. We need you. Everything you told us 3 years ago is exactly what happened. We should have listened to you then. You have to have the balls to walk away. You can't
Oh
act
yes.
like it and then end up coming back and saying, "Oh, I was just kidding. I'll do the deal on your terms." You either believe in what you're selling, in the process that's involved with it, or you don't. But if you believe it, you have to go all in with it, or else it doesn't work.
Yeah. Your job isn't to sell to everyone that expresses an interest in what you do. Your job is to sell to the right people, because you selling is getting your fees on your terms and both parties walking away satisfied. It is not selling if, in order to win the business, now I stress this, to win the business, you offer them a discount. People come to me and say, "Well, you do specials." There's a difference between retail specials to drive people to a website to do something.
Yeah, when
Yeah,
you're
that's
following a ClickFunnels
yeah,
mentality to get
that's
people in
totally
with an
different.
offer, it's not the same thing.
It's not the same thing. It's if you're sitting eyeballing a CEO who says, "Look, I want what you have. I want to work with you. We just can't quite afford it. Is there some movement?" And if you capitulate in that moment, you're not a salesman. Anyone can discount. Yeah.
Yep.
So you've got to master the art of planting your feet, standing your ground, knowing your worth. And I say this, you go to any other professional, you get in front of a top lawyer, and you would never do this. Well, look, I've been charged with murder. What I'm doing is I'm shopping around. I've met with 3 other criminal defense lawyers. I've asked each and every one of them to come up with a rough outline of what it is they're going to do to defend me. And then at the end of that process, I'm going to pick the one that I like. They're going to look and say, fuck off. This is how it works. My retainer is $10,000. If you don't want to pay the retainer up front, then I'm not even going to lift a finger to look at anything, right? You've come to me. I don't need you. I'm a top lawyer. Yeah. You've come to me. You're the one that's going to go to prison if this doesn't work. So either we do it my way or we don't do it at all. And this is it. Sales is not about learning how to sell to a prospect. It's teaching the prospect how to buy from you. And retailers are the masters of it. You go into McDonald's and try and change the buying process. Oh, look, can I have a Big Mac? But I tell you what, I'll pay you after the meal. No, you
No, you
pay
don't
up
get your
front.
Big Mac.
You don't get your Big Mac. A pimply 16-year-old has more authority selling burgers than a guy in a $3,000 suit trying to flog a CRM system. Yeah, because he can actually say, no, go to
Yeah.
the cinema tonight and say, I'll pay you on the way out if I like the movie. Piss off, sir.
Yeah, no
Yeah.
chance.
But sales is the only profession where once you put on that suit and get that CRM system, all of a sudden the prospect is the king. The prospect calls the shots. It's utter rubbish. It's a mindset because you're so obsessed with the outcome, getting a deal, getting the sale, feeling good about yourself. Oh, it's painful actually watching salespeople.
But you know what, man? I mean, feeling good about yourself, that's the thing. Self-belief, people have a real problem with
Yeah.
self-belief. They have imposter syndrome for whatever the reason, or I don't belong in the room, or they get freaked out because I've never sold anything like this before, or I've never been in an account this size, and they live in their own head rent free, and that's what drives half the issues that they have is they just don't believe in themselves to begin with, and they have that need for validation from somebody else, and the only way they get it's if they buy from them or not. If you go
Well,
in
as I
like, you
say,
know
if
what,
you're
I don't have the damn account now. If I don't have it when I leave, I'm no worse off than I am walking in. There's only an upside to this today.
Hey, look, I say to my clients, if you're in sales to get your emotional needs met, get the fuck out. Buy a dog. Set up a charity. Do something noble. I'm in this for one reason and one reason alone, to go to the bank. That is the whole purpose of it. If you're in it for any other reason, get out. Right now, look, if you do it well, though, you will make friends. You will form relationships. But that is not my primary drive. So many people, why do you love sales? I love meeting people. They become a social worker. Yeah? Get out.
100%. I tell people all the time, you know why I do what I do? Because I like money and prefer to have lots of it. And I have the ability to
Exactly.
do
Yeah, yeah.
that.
I'm not in this to make friends. I have enough friends. I don't need anyone. I don't need to pay people. I don't need to be in front of people to pay me to like me, sort of thing. So, no, if you are in this for any form of validation, You need to get out. You need to find a better life or figure out how to do something worthwhile because this is no place to be. This is about going to the bank. This is about being in control. This is about you figuring out if you should sell to somebody, not please buy from me. I need the money. And that's how most, not all, most operate. 80% of salespeople are average. Why are they average? Again, goes back to the fundamental principle. Deep down, I don't really want to be here.
Yeah,
I've
because they
stored
can't be. They can get away with it, right? You
Yeah.
know,
It's
and
not
they
hard. That's why I love COVID. And that's why I love economic hard times. Because what it does is, I had so many company CEOs over COVID saying to me, Benj, it's one of the best things that ever happened. I said, why? Well, we halved our sales team, but the same amount of revenue came in. Exactly. Half of them were just order takers. You didn't even need them. Yeah. So this is good. Economic hard times are good because good salespeople sell in the good times and the bad times. Yeah. Crap salespeople struggle.
100%. So, what do you think? We've talked a lot about a lot, and I've followed you on LinkedIn for a while. I see you randomly pop up in comments threads all the time, and I know it's legitimately you because you couldn't train anybody to have that same sense of humor, or including AI for that matter. But what do you think the biggest mistake is that salespeople make? Out of it could be the things we've talked about, or even something we haven't even brought up yet.
I think we've kind of covered it. You need, and this is it, most salespeople take a sense of pride in winging it. There's a real sense of pride, and they hate accountability. Because accountability means you're responsible. They always will take credit when a sale goes through, but when there isn't a sale, there's always excuses. It's the economy, it's timing, it's Trump's tariffs, it's the competitor have undercut us, it's we haven't got the upgrade. There's always some excuse to try and justify that because they don't like to be held accountable. And the reason they don't do that is most salespeople, I don't care which system of selling you choose to follow. So I'm not going to plug a Spin or Manic or Sala or Zig Ziglar. I'm not going to plug a particular type. But I do know this. If you just picked one of them and got really good, I mean, you did everything it said, buy the book properly, you do better than the average salesperson because you're following a replicable process that you can learn from and you can hold your hand up when you've gone wrong. Most salespeople don't like that. They like going out and winging it. And you know they've winged it because when they come back, yeah, how was the meeting? Oh yeah, it was good, good, good. Why was it good? Well, they really liked us. Okay, fine. And well, they're really very interested. And um, when you ask them what their timeline is, what do they say? Oh, I didn't do that. So when you said what's it, there's so many questions I never got answers to. They just left because they felt good. So what were you doing for an hour? Oh, yeah, we're having a really good chat. They were asking all the great questions and I was answering. Oh, so they were asking really good questions. Well, isn't your alarm bells ringing? If a prospect's asking you really good questions about our product or service, it probably means they know what they're doing, which probably means they're using you. Have you ever considered that for a second? Salespeople, well, all we got to do is put together something, and then they end up chasing a document that disappears into the ether. So I would say the biggest mistake they make is they don't invest in learning a structure for selling. That would be the biggest thing I would say. There's loads of other things you could put in there equally, but if you don't, Rory McIlroy just won whatever it was, that golfing tournament, right? How did
Mm-hmm.
he win that? Wasn't his winning personality? Wasn't his positive mental attitude, although that would have played a role. Guess what it was? It was hundreds of hours of practice. It was knowing how to stand, how to bend the knees, how to hold the club, which club did you. Everything was articulated and choreographed, and he did it really well when he had to. Yeah, that's not fluke. That's not luck. That's doing the basics, the fundamentals really, really well and succeeding. That's what sales is about, is doing the fundamentals really well. Have a process, have a system, have a structure. Don't just show up, throw up, and hope, as I say, which is how most salespeople sell.
Yep. I think one of the ones that I saw you commenting on over the course of the last couple of weeks was somebody who was bitching about not being able to get past a gatekeeper.
Ah, yes,
And
yes.
I don't even remember what your response was, but it was pure gold. I mean, I think the other thing too is, man, we take ourselves so seriously, right?
Yes.
I have like
People
you
say,
and I talking right now is no different than me in a prospect meeting. My
no,
personality is no different. My sense of humor is no different. And I mean, even we were joking about Tommy Boy, but I mean, there are a lot of times that I drop movie quotes in the middle of talking to somebody about. I did it when we were talking today. I'm a big dumb animal. That's straight from Tommy
yeah,
Boy, right?
yeah,
I
yeah,
know
yeah,
that if that CFO laughs at that, he's seen the movie and he's my people. I know if they don't laugh at it, I probably is no harm, no foul because they didn't know I just quoted a movie and what I was saying. But I
yeah,
think too many times people take this stuff seriously. And I actually saw Josh Braun is a friend of mine, and he
yeah,
had a good post on LinkedIn this week where he picked up the phone where he was talking about somebody was calling the gatekeeper and the gatekeeper. It was actually him. He was talking about it in first person, and they said, "Well, who are you with?" And he goes, "Well, I'm with Jenna, and I've been with her for 10 years. Who are you with?" And she wanted to know who the company was, and he just went back
yeah,
with her and say, here's who my partner is, my spouse, whatever." And
yeah,
you break the ice that way, man. If you can get somebody to laugh at that or think it's funny or whatever, a lot of times there's really not a barrier there. They just don't want to deal with somebody coming in that's going to regurgitate a bunch of statistics or facts or follow a canned script. If you can catch them off guard, I mean, I don't ever have a problem really getting past a gatekeeper. And you know what? If I find that I am, I give them a compliment. I'm like, "You're the best gatekeeper I've talked to all month. My God, you were like world class at your
yeah.
job." I don't know what it's going to take for me to get past you, but I can promise you, as world class as you are at your job, I'm equally as stubborn. So we're going to talk a lot. What do you want to talk about next?
Yeah.
And then,
So again,
go
yeah,
ahead.
no, I agree. I mean, with gatekeepers, I do something similar. I teach something because there are multiple ways of getting past gatekeepers, but the easiest and most quickest to learn is the one where I ask, because if you're phoning at director level, which you should be, if you're in sales, you need to be phoning at a decision maker level only. So I'm only ever phoning at managing director, CEO, president level anyway. And you got to ask yourself, what do these people sound like? What do they sound like when they communicate? What sort of personality are they? These people tend to be short, sharp, and clipped, direct to the point. They don't like time wasters. So how do they sound when they communicate? They generally don't say please and thank you. They say things like thanks. They're short, clipped to the point. So if I'm trying to get past the gatekeeper, a gatekeeper has two functions. Always put through the right call, never put through the wrong call. That's the primary function. So the goal for me is I have to sound like I belong. A lot of salespeople don't get this. They phone up and they sound like a salesperson. If you sound like a salesperson, you're never going to get past. Well, not never. You will, but you'll have a harder time because they're programmed to stop you. So one of the things I teach, and it's very hard to do for a lot of people, is you need to sound like a ball-breaking CEO the moment they answer, but you're not rude. You're just assertive. So what does that sound like? So I get the phone rings and I just go, ABC company, Rachel speaking. There's no hello, there's no hi, it's just straight in. I go, David's not in the office this afternoon, is he? Soon as I hear them start to answer, I go, great, can you tell him it's Benjamin? Thanks. And at this point, they've only got one question, and I always ask it, will he know what it's regarding? And that's when I make a joke. I go, he'd better. No one ever gets in the middle of that. Do you know how many people put me straight through? Because they don't want to get in the middle. It sounds like he belongs. I'm not sure. I'm not going to say no to this person. So I'm going to phone through to my boss and I'm going to let my boss decide. And that's what I need to do. I want the boss to decide if they're going to talk to me. And I get two things happen. Either the boss answers and you can hear them go, hello. I go, look, you are going to hate me. It was actually a cold call. I knew it was I knew I didn't know anyone called. Most of them will then take it. Or they come back and they say, I'm sorry, Benjamin, he's not sure what the call's regarding. Can you please elaborate? And this is when I say I don't know why I'm calling. Confusion. I don't know why I'm calling. They go, what do you mean? I said, look, I've got his name and number, and I've written it down on a piece. I said, look, I've got his name and number on a piece of paper in front of me. It says call David on this number. Can you find out why? Then they go back. It's amazing how many times the guy goes, two things happen. I'll put him through, or they come back and say, he doesn't know what it's about. Send an email. Fine, I'll take that. But to getting past the gatekeeper at decision maker level, if you do that well, it's very effective. But you don't say, put me through to Benjamin. I get people say, well, I did what you said. I said, well, what did you do? I phoned up and said, put me through to. I said, I never said put me through. If you say put me through to someone, you're going to hook their inner child, their rebellious kid, and they're going to say, screw you. Don't phone me up and tell me what to do. So
Yeah,
I
you
said,
don't
no,
tell me what to
language
do.
is important. I didn't say that. I asked, was he in? And then I said, great. Tell him it's Benjamin. Thanks. And when she said, well, you know what it's regarding? I said, he'd better. I'll give you one more that makes me laugh. Now, even I find this hard to do. because it does take a lot of guts to do this one. When they ask you what's it regarding, you go, it's about my wife. Now it's amazing that one gets put through, right? And you can hear the voice of the person on the other end. They go, hello. You go, oh, look, Richard, I'll be upfront with you. My wife was actually reading about your industry the other day, and she said,
Ah, nice.
it takes guts, that one. I've only done it a handful of times for entertainment purposes. But yeah, getting past the gatekeeper is not letting the gatekeeper decide whether or not you get through. You got to let the decision maker make that decision. So it's not hard to get past them. Doesn't mean you're going to talk to the person you want, though, because they may still refuse to take your call. But that is a very effective method when done well.
Yeah,
Very
that's
effective.
interesting. I may take that one for a test drive next time I pick up
Yeah, but
$1,000.
it's really uncomfortable because you've got to unlearn all your telephone behavior, which is always you say hi, you introduce yourself. But that's how your mum and dad taught you to make calls. And this is what I say: you got to stop listening to your mum and dad.
Listen, man, I already have excluded myself from ever being able to run for political office. I'll try anything once. So I think that's not going to be too much of a stretch. I think it's interesting, though. And the thing is, when you get people off balance like that, they don't know how to react. Like they've never heard
Yeah.
something like that before. The other thing, what I've done in the past too is when somebody says, okay, well, I'm not interested, I don't hang up first. I make them hang up first because
Yeah.
the uncomfortable silence, typically, if that person's still around, they'll say something and well, like, are you going to hang up? Well, no, you're the one that didn't want to talk to me. I'm going to make you hang up on me. Then they may
Yeah.
even chuckle and you have a chance to keep the call going. But man, we could talk for hours. We could have pub
I
conversations
could.
for hours.
Well, I
I mean,
do. This is what we do for a living. We talk for hours about sales. Is what we do.
100%. But we've been going for almost an hour now.
No way.
And
Really?
I know that you have an offer for everybody that's listening that you want to have them be able to go to your website and check out some materials that you're going to provide for them. So why don't you
Yeah. So
share that? And
I
we're going to
thought.
make sure for everybody listening to this, if you're at the gym or whatever else, it'll be in the show notes and everything will be linked directly to Benjamin's stuff. So don't worry about stopping the treadmill to write it down. You'll be able to get it from the show notes too. But I wanted to make sure we had plenty of time to talk through that.
No, it's fine. So what I'm doing for your listeners, I'm using Instagram now. I'm trying to get up with the youth, you see. So if you direct message me on Instagram, which is just my name, it's Benjamin Dennehy. It won't be hard to find. It's got the orange. I'm wearing the hat, so you're gonna see me. If you send me a message, let's use the code David because this is David's show. So if you send the word David, I'm giving you access to two courses, which I normally charge like $197 for. They're just short mini courses, which is a bit of a taster for your audience. One is 10 reasons why your prospecting fails, and the other is how to bulldoze your way through objection. So you get access to those if you send me a message. And also, I run a coaching club, and I have people every month, twice a month actually, we have live Q&A sessions. I'm also going to offer you the opportunity to sign up to one of those free of charge. It's normally only for members. Come along. It's just like this. It's a live interactive session. You can ask me questions and I will fix them. And then after that, what you do with me is completely up to you. So that's the deal. So yeah, just send the word David to me on Instagram and you'll get an automated response directing you to a landing page and you can just sign up and do all of that. Or find me on LinkedIn. Actually, UK's most hated sales trainer. If you Google that, you're gonna find me. I got a YouTube channel, LinkedIn. I'm pretty much everywhere, I think. Yeah, you'll find me.
Absolutely. Well, and I know this crew's on Instagram because they interact with our stuff pretty good all the time. So listen,
Oh,
people, that's
great.
that's a really, really good offer. He's going to give you access to two courses
Yep.
and the ability to be on a live call. Look, we've been going for almost 55 minutes at this point. You get all of that comedy and humor for absolutely free. It's cheaper than going to the comedy club. Have your wife come sit in the chair next to you, sign up for the free hour, listen to Benjamin live, and you just saved yourself the money and can probably buy a nicer bottle of wine. So there you
Exactly.
go. Well, listen, man, I really appreciate you taking time to jump on today. I know you're busy. I have an
Appreciate it.
appreciation for your out of office message, and that tells you if you need this, do this. Don't message me here because I'll never get back to you. All of that other stuff. It's very well constructed, and I followed your directions to a T because, as you have said, we're programmed to do those things. So I really appreciate it,
Brilliant.
man. Great conversation, and I'm sure we'll talk again at some point.
I'd love to, David. I've really enjoyed it. It's been a real pleasure being on your show and talking to you and your audience.
Absolutely. Well, thank you again. Everybody else, we'll catch you next time. See ya.